Chapter 6. Adam had cried and sniffed and jerked around so long that he finally got the tears to stop, and it wasn't long after he stopped crying that he felt a cold, wet tongue on the back of his neck. At first it startled him. He rolled over with a gasp. The red pup was standing beside him, his tail wagging, and that floppy red tongue going like a mop on a hardwood floor. Adam pushed him back, but the pup just bobbed his head and bounced right up to him again. At last, Adam cuddled him real close and petted him. The pup wagged his tail and licked his face. Adam nestled his cheek against the smooth, soft fur on the pup's floppy ears. "You still love me, don't you?" he sniffed. The pup wiggled all over, excited at the sound of Adam's kind, gentle voice. After a while, Adam pushed him back and held him at arm's length. "I reckon you aren't much of a trail hound anyway. Maybe they're right. I figure it's all right for Lori to make a pet out of you. And, well, just 'cause you aren't a trail hound doesn't mean we can't go running that cat sometimes." The tears welled up in his eyes again. This time he managed to fight them back. He got up and dusted the hay from his clothes. When he started toward the house, he found he couldn't move his left leg. He glanced down and saw the red pup holding him. He was growling and shaking his head from side to side like he was fixing to tear Adam's leg clean off. Adam couldn't help laughing at him. "You crazy mutt," he chuckled. "You're a good hound, I reckon. You haven't got the blood for trailing anyhow. Just like Sam told me that day he brought you in. You come out of a cave up there in the mountains and you're probably part wolf. But even if you aren't a trail hound," he reached down and patted him on the head, "I love you anyway." The next 2 weeks brought a lot of changes around the Jenny Creek area of the Whiskey Basin, and most of the changes were in Adam. He did his chores without having to be told, and when he wasn't working on his chores, he'd go out in the field and help clear the rocks from where they had planned to plant next year's corn crop. Wood had to be cut and stored for the winter, and there was water to haul from the stream for Mother's cooking and washing. A good rain came on Sunday night, and Adam helped Sam put fresh sod on the roof for their log cabin. He didn't fuss or complain about doing stuff to help out, and when Lori would get into one of her gripey moods and start pestering him, he'd just walk away without arguing with her. She was too little for him to be fighting with. Besides, she wouldn't listen when he tried to boss her around. He even took the time to play with Lori so she'd stay out of her mother's hair when she was trying to do the washing. "You want to go for a walk?" he asked her one day. Lori clutched the funny-looking apple doll she had always carried around up close to her chest. "No." "Well, how about going down to the stream and watching fish?" Again, she shook her head. "No." Adam threw up his hands. Then, with a smile, he figured out what to do. "I got an idea," he said, trying to sound like he was all excited. Lori's eyes got big. "We can go trapping just like Sam does." Lori dropped her doll and clapped her hands together. "Really? Can we really, Adam, just like Sam?" He nodded. "That's right. I know where part of his trap line is, just a little ways off. We can take the red pup, and he can protect us. Then if there's anything in the traps, we can get Sam and Mother and show them." Lori started to jump up and down and pat her little hands together. Adam smiled confidently and led the way toward Jenny Creek. This is the perfect way to keep her out of Mother's hair, he thought. Sam only set the traps yesterday. I doubt if there'll be anything in them. And the walk to Sam's trap line and back will take nearly 2 hours. That'll be plenty of time for Mother to finish her washing and be ready to play with Lori when we get back. Lori scampered ahead of him when they reached the flat meadow near the creek. The red pup bounced along behind her, leaping up and playfully biting her arm. He didn't bite hard, but just sort of held her and knocked her off balance. She stopped running long enough for him to back off. Then she let out a squeal and ran so he would start chasing her again. This little game lasted about halfway across the meadow. Only trouble, the red pup was still young and at that clumsy stage. One time he rushed in to catch hold of Lori's arm, and he stumbled over his own feet. He crashed right into the back of her knees, and both of them went tumbling in a cloud of dust. The pup bounced up and tried to lick the side of her head. She doubled her little fist and took a swing at him. The pup ducked out of the way, then tried again. A second time, Lori swung at him and missed. Then she got up on her hands and knees, but almost as she got to her feet, the pup came flying into her seat. It knocked her tumbling. Before she even stopped rolling, head over heels, the pup raced in and licked her a couple of times. Too rough! He was getting a little too rough, Adam decided, so he rushed toward them to save his little sister. Only Lori didn't need much saving. Getting knocked down the first time was one matter. Having it happen again was a different thing. She was mad as a hornet. She managed to catch the pup by one of his long floppy ears. Then she grabbed a hold of the other. Just as Adam got to them and reached down to separate them, Lori locked her teeth into the pup's snout and bit down for all she was worth. The pup would have squealed, only he couldn't since her mouth was wrapped around his nose. He shook his head, but that only seemed to make her bite down all the harder. Then the pup started backing up, dragging Lori along with him. "Lori, you quit biting that pup." Adam reached down and got a hold of Lori by the pockets of her breeches and tried to pull her loose. The pup let out a muffled howl, and Lori clung to his nose like one of Sam's steel traps. "You let go of that dog. Get his nose out of your mouth. That's nasty." Finally, she let go. "Darn dog," she growled. "Too rough." The pup shook his head a couple more times, then came charging back to play again. Adam set Lori on his shoulders. The pup circled him. then started bouncing up and down, trying to get to her. Once the pup's paws hit Adam square in the stomach, almost knocking the air out of him. He gave a kick, a playful one, but enough to get the red pup to back off. "He's rough," Lori repeated as she put her chin on Adam's forehead so he could look down at him. Adam looked up. "He sure is," Adam agreed. Then he gave a little jerk as a thought raced through his head. "Hey, we've been trying to come up with a name for him. How about Rough?" "He sure is rough," Lori agreed. "That's a good name." Adam had been trying to think of a name for that pup ever since Sam had brought him home last winter. Even little as he was then, he was a rough one, Adam remembered. "Must have been raised by some wild animal," Sam had said. "When I drug him from the mouth of that cave, he set up a fuss like he was going to tear me apart." Adam smiled. Rough was such a simple name, one he should have thought of long ago. He could hardly wait to tell Mother that they finally had a name for the red pup.